Welcome to the AreYouAnnie podcast, where women who have walked through fire or are still walking through it find their inspiration and validation after surviving narcissistic abuse. I'm your host, Kyle Hackley, lawyer, mother, grandmother, and author of Undercurrent, a novel about a woman who finds the strength to escape a toxic relationship. Not a therapist, I created this podcast as a platform for Annies everywhere to hear their stories, to be understood, and to know that they are not alone. So let's get to it. Imagine being swept off your feet by someone who seems perfect. He's charming, he's attentive, and seemingly in love with every fiber of your being. Their affection feels overwhelming, but in a good way, like a tidal wave of validation flowing over you. And then one day, subtly, something changes. A sharp word, a dismissive tone, or a moment that just makes you wonder, was that the same guy who once admired me? Today we're exploring the slow unraveling of a narcissist, why it can take years before their true nature fully emerges, and how marriage can be the moment the mask starts to slip. For Annie Black, the honeymoon was over as soon as she and her husband Santino opened the door to their new family home. And I mean literally over. Santino was everything to Annie, everything she'd ever dreamed of. He was passionate, devoted, endlessly affectionate, and he was thoughtful and made her feel like she was the most important person in the world. Never once during their year engagement did he speak to her sharply, act cold, or do anything to show even a flicker of being cruel. If there were signs, they were buried beneath an overwhelming display of charm. And then came the honeymoon. Their wedding had been magical. The honeymoon trip itself was perfect. But the moment they arrived at their home, something shifted. Annie couldn't pinpoint exactly what had changed. Only for the first time she saw a different side of Santino. A sharp remark, something that showed he was a little cold, a look that made her feel that she had annoyed him. But it certainly wasn't a blow up, just a brief glimpse that something was off. So she dismissed it. And after all, they had just traveled home. Maybe he was tired, maybe he was stressed. She'd never seen him act this way before, so why assume the worst? This wasn't like Santino at all. But in reality, that moment was the first crack in Santino's facade. The moment he stopped playing the role of the perfect guy and started letting his real nature peek through. Because here's the thing about narcissists. They don't feel the need to maintain illusion forever. They wear a mask for as long as it serves their purpose. And the moment they feel secure enough in their control, they start testing how much they can get away with. For Santino, marriage was security. Annie was now his wife, not just a girlfriend who could easily walk away. And as far as he was concerned, she wasn't going anywhere, especially based on the family. So little by little, Santino's mask was starting to slip. What happened to Annie is actually common in narcissistic relationships. Many survivors describe their experience in very similar ways. There's that perfect love bombing phase where the narcissist is everything they ever wanted. Then there's a honeymoon period where it's literal or metaphorical. It's where the relationship still feels so blissful. A subtle but undeniable shift once the narcissist feels they have secured their partner takes place. Why does this happen? This is what I think. I mean, after all, the mask can't last forever. Narcissists are skilled to mirror their target's desires, but it's exhausting to maintain a false persona 24/7. Once they believe their victim is emotionally or legally locked in, they really no longer see a reason to keep up the act. Another shift comes when the narcissist sees that the victim is becoming more dependent upon them, whether that comes in the form of a marriage or moving in together or financial dependence. Narcissists will start to reveal more of their true nature when they believe their partners are less likely to leave. Then there is the testing of waters period. The first signs of narcissistic abuse aren't always extreme. Usually they're not extreme. Like in Annie's case, it started subtly, a shift in tone, a sudden mood swing, an unexpected coldness. If the victim shrugs it off, the narcissist knows he can escalate his behavior. And then there's a slow burn effect. If Santino had shown his true colors too soon, Annie wouldn't have stayed. But because the change was so gradual, she rationalized everything. Each small moment of him being cruel was so minor that it wasn't enough on their own to make her run. But then she got pregnant, which was the ultimate trigger for Santino. Why? I mean, shouldn't he have been proud to be becoming a father? No, because now Annie's focus was no longer 100% on him. To a narcissist, attention is power. Attention is control. As long as they are the center of their partner's world, they can feel secure. But when they sense that their importance is being challenged, whether it's a baby or a new job, even maybe new friends, they start to panic. And that's when their worst behavior starts to surface. For Santino, Annie's pregnancy signaled that she was no longer entirely his. She now had someone else to love, someone else to prioritize. And the truth is, Santino just couldn't handle it. That's why so many survivors of narcissistic abuse say that they didn't see their partner's abusive side until there was a major life event. So let's just spend a minute and break it down. How can you recognize the flags early on? Why do commitment milestones bring out the worst in a narcissist? And most importantly, how can you protect yourself? One of the reasons people don't spot narcissists early on is because they are masters of illusion. In the beginning, as we said before, they seem perfect. Of course, they're attentive and affectionate, and they're showing deep interest in you. but beneath the surface, they are subtle warning signs. Let's look at Annie. Santino showered her with praise and affection, made her feel like she had found the one. Had she paid closer attention to how he talked about other people, maybe she would have seen the signs. The way he talked to his father was dismissive. Now, he worked for his father, so maybe she justified his complaining about his father because these were work-related activities. But, she also didn't notice how indifferent he was to his brother. And she never noticed that many of his control tactics were disguised as care. When they were dating, he didn't want her to stay out late with their girlfriends. He'd tell her that he was so worried about her when she would be out. He never wanted anything to happen to his true love. What he was doing is subtly isolating her from her friends, sometimes even manipulating her to make her feel afraid to go out at night with the girls. Then one moment he would be all in. Yeah, let's go to the wedding. I'd love to do that. And then as the day approached, he would be annoyed. He would withdraw and resist going to the wedding. And then if he went, he would refuse to dance with her or mingle with other guests. Santino's also had an inability to accept criticism. Even minor feedback would be met with defensiveness. But then he would just blow it off, excusing his reaction, saying, which is joking. I certainly wasn't serious about that. In the dating stage of a relationship, the narcissist will work hard to secure his partner's loyalty. He is generally wearing the perfect mask, ensuring his partner becomes emotionally attached. But once that major life commitment happens, again, it could be marriage, pregnancy, moving in together, the narcissist feels insecure enough to start controlling their partner more overtly. In other words, commitment milestones tend to trigger the narcissist's worst traits because they view them as power shifts, and they will do anything to regain their power. Now, could Annie have protected herself from falling into Santino's trap? I don't know. I mean, maybe she could have realized that Santino maybe was just too good to be true. They did date a year before they got married, but then you have to counter that with she was a teenager and he was 7 years her senior. I don't know, maybe a more mature woman would have caught the early signs and would have been able to better discern the difference between control and concern. But the first shift in someone's personality, no matter how small, is often the most telling. It's easy to excuse, it's easy to dismiss, but it's also the very first warning. The warning that there's something deeper going on here. And the sooner you recognize it, the sooner you take control of your own story. Now, Annie's situation isn't unique. It happens every day. A whirlwind romance, a fairy tale wedding, a honeymoon that ends. Not just in the literal sense, but in the way that it really matters. And then there's this slow understanding that the person you married isn't who you thought they were at all. If you found this conversation helpful, I encourage you to share this episode because you never know who might need to hear it. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. When you subscribe and when you share, you help me reach another Annie, another woman who may be searching for answers, for validation, for hope. You help us validate her experience. You help her know that she's not alone. Thank you for being a part of this community and for helping spread a message that could change somebody's life. Until then, know that you are stronger than you think. I want you to be tenacious and never give up on what's important to you. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.